Hey, Brittany, how you doing? Okay, so just kind of looking at some of your writing here, I want to address this because this is really important stuff. So, starting out with not nearly as long as these two. So, working on shading and highlights, that's the name of the game, right? I mean, once you get your hard line established, it's really about developing depth, dimension, and volume by using shading and highlight techniques. Okay, the other two images are difficult. The one up there on hand is very pixelated. That's tough, man, and that's tough. That points to learning, and it points to learning, and it's good learning because based on your writing here, if you're confronted with this assignment again, there's a good chance you're going to take a very close look at the image you're using to base the illustration on. So, of course, you'd be looking for high resolution, very clear images and something that doesn't have the kind of really bad, deep, I shouldn't say bad, I should say deep shadow areas, which can be kind of tough. So, if you want to change your images, I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm perfectly fine with that. So, problematic image means you have to change. That's perfect. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look. So hardline is great. I think there's some areas that could use some improvement. So for example, right over here, shouldn't those be curved? I can see little corner points in that kind of dark area above her eyes. So those may be considered to be corner points. Right now, the hand doesn't look quite like it's there. Neither does the cigarette. So also I would recommend at this point, yes, definitely get those shading and highlight techniques down in the facial area in both. Leonardo's coming along beautifully, but this image itself, Leonardo's got so much shadow going on here. It's going to be a really neat job when you start developing that shadow and highlight. Brittney, this points right now just to taking some really sitting down, pouring yourself a cup of coffee and taking some time to establish those shadow and highlight areas. Also think about shadow and highlights in the clothing areas, as those kind of shadows and twists in the clothing really add a lot of movement to the clothing, which in turn is going to add a lot of visual engagement to the piece itself. Hair is always an issue. I think, over here we could really start developing some hair. And this image, this portrait, has some really interesting shadow areas over here. So I'm really super interested in see how those get developed. All right, so I mean, basically, that's what it is. It's just a matter of getting the detail down. I recommend eyelashes. I always do. Go through some of the other videos. You'll see. I always recommend eyelashes. I think that they really add a tremendous amount of visual engagement to the area and the eye area of the portrait, and that's relevant because anytime there is a portrait, anytime there is a illustration or an image of a human being, we as human beings are drawn immediately to that area, specifically the eyes. So developing the eyes is really critical. The shapes, I think, are beautiful in your examples. Think about adding eyelashes. Of course, the eyelashes would be smaller for men, but they would be prominent for women. Nonetheless, you'll see what I'm saying when you do start adding some of those finer details. A couple of areas I want to draw your attention to. This is a great tutorial. It really does a great job of showing you how to establish hardline and texture in the hair, but there's not a whole lot of shading here. The only shading here really is that beautiful shadow under the neck, which actually adds a tremendous amount of depth to this illustration. But use this as a basis and then move on to these other tutorials, which really start to develop good shading techniques. Look at the neck area, right? Just gorgeous techniques throughout here. And the same thing with the other videos. And then, believe it or not, if you jump back to week 3, that was the color week. Remember this announcement, welcome to week 3. There's a bunch of tutorials in here, shading and highlight techniques. And then over here, coloring vector illustrations using shading and highlight. Then here's 6 more video tutorials. And then here's an additional 2. So there's a ton of resources to assist you in establishing shadow and highlight areas. Okay, and don't forget the clothing. Don't forget the hair. Textures in the hair, textures in the clothing are just really, and movement, showing shadow, highlight, so it depict the kind of folds and creases in the clothes. Shadows where the clothing meet the skin. That's always important. All right, so I think this is a fantastic start. So from here, let's just finish it up. If you have any questions at all, please let me know. But I'm just loving what I'm seeing so far. I can't wait to see more. All right, great job. Thank you very much.